Hello, I'm Emmy.
And I'm Bea.
We're a French-Filipino couple in our 30s, and we started out as a long-distance relationship.
We crossed the world to be together many years ago.
And this is our post-LDR life. So it's December 21st. We are in our little apartment, not too far from
Our tiny apartment.
Bea's family home. And it's the day before we celebrate our little Christmas, the two of us. Of course, we both have our families. We have a shared family, of course, in our nuclear families. And we have friends, all of these people we want to celebrate with. And so we'll have our Christmases.
The Christmases. Multiple Christmases. Now you might be wondering, it's the 21st, so why are we celebrating on the 22nd? We'll get into that later. There's a very important reason why. But to give the context, I think we should go back to the beginning.
Yeah, that's right. I think childhood is probably the part of anyone's life that's most closely associated with happy feelings about Christmas, excitement over Christmas.
When you're a kid, Christmas kind of just happens to you. All of the adults around you make the magic happen, Elf on the Shelf. In our own community, we have a tree lighting ceremony, we have a play, there's a parade, and yeah, when you're a child, Christmas is just magical because all of these things are happening around you. You might not necessarily understand why. Every religious group may have their own explanations or things that they it differs how deeply you can think about it, but for many families it's a time to get together, to eat, to give gifts to each other. It's the end of the year, you celebrate the year that was, you welcome the new year, and yeah.
I think as a child, the gift giving part, of course, was perhaps the most crucial for me. Children love receiving gifts, but I also actually love giving gifts, and it's something I'm really grateful that my family introduced from the get-go. My parents really encouraged us to give gifts to each other, my siblings and I, also to give gifts to them as parents. Like it wasn't like a single one direction kind of relationship. Like there was receive and offer a bit of yourself in return.
Were you given a budget?
So I would use my monthly allowance, which was very small at the time, but I was pretty thrifty the whole year. So usually a lot of my allowance went into gift giving. So in the lead up to Christmas time, in the few weeks before, I would kind of tally up all of my little savings from the year in francs at the time, before euros, and divvy it up amongst the family members, and then budget around that, and then we would go shopping with my mom usually, and she'd help me find the gifts for...
How did you keep your gifts a secret from your mom?
Well, yeah, that was a bit tricky oftentimes. So I would buy a number of things, not tell her who they're for necessarily. And it was my own money, so sometimes I could kind of really do it on my own, the actual purchasing.
How old were you?
I would say this habit started when I was maybe 8 or 9, and then it continued on forever. We still do that. Even extending it to grandparents, godfather, godmother, this was pretty well implanted in my family. The idea of giving gifts to everyone that's the closest to you, like your most immediate relatives.
In my own family, I would say the focus is really on eating together. Although there was also like a gift giving tradition, but it's more unpredictable. I would say it's less planned. It's really more spontaneous, and a lot of the time you would like get the same kind of gift and like distribute it to your relatives. And a big thing, I think a big difference between our families is that it's very much like the adults giving the kids stuff rather than everybody giving everyone something. So there were a few years where I would just like decide to give people things, but it's really not consistent, and it's a family thing that it's not consistent. But something that was pretty consistent was ampao, which is the Filipino tradition of giving your um, younger family members money in a red envelope. So it's a, I think it's a from the Chinese actually, because it's specifically the red Chinese envelopes that we use. I don't know if every Filipino family does it, but our family has always kind of done that. Um, and yeah, we focus a lot more on the food than that part. We don't actually. This is one of the things that I found very different. Like when we give the gifts, um, there's no sitting down and giving the gifts to everyone at the table. It's really like if you have a gift in the party, then you just go and like find the people and like give it to them. But then I would like you to actually describe your little family tradition,
Yeah,
because it's pretty special, at least to me.
this is something we've done as far back as I can remember, which is to put all of the gifts under the Christmas tree, um, which was usually an actual Christmas tree, sometimes a pretty sad-looking one that was potted and survived barely in our garden year long.
It doesn't
Uh,
really. It's not shaped like a traditional triangle.
Not exactly, or
type.
with missing bits maybe, just pretty sparse branches. But with a lot of decorations, it looked okay. And so yeah, we would put all of our gifts under the tree. We still do that in the few days before Christmas, and then we would take turns opening one. So everyone is like focused on the person opening their gift. There's a lot of it's kind of a happy kind of pressure because you usually, of course, you're excited for people to open the gifts you got them. It also forces you to be kind of thoughtful about the kind of things you get. And yeah, I don't know, it really feels like everyone's part of the whole process from beginning to end, and it makes it very entertaining, warm, and yeah, a lot of fuzzy feelings. Something that's worth noting is that at no point was Santa involved in our family. There was an element of mystery at the beginning, maybe, where my parents would often make sure we weren't around when the gifts would be placed under the Christmas tree, but at no point did they say, "Oh, Santa got you this." So it was kind of an open secret in our family that Santa is mom and dad.
The thing is, I only have one clear memory of like a Santa memory, but it was also the year where my mom realized that I knew what was up, but actually I didn't realize that what was up. I just kind of said a comment that she read as me understanding. So what happened was we went to a mall one day, and she realized I really wanted a dollhouse. So she wanted to get it for me as if it's from Santa. And then but then it was wrapped in the mall, so it had the name of the establishment on the gift wrapper. And then on Christmas morning, my mom said, "Oh, this morning I heard some sleigh bells, and I think Santa really stopped by." And then I saw the gift, and I just made like a very casual comment. I didn't really mean anything by it. I just said, "Oh, mom, I guess Santa shops at," and then I said the mall's name. And she thought I was being sassy. She thought it meant I was telling her, "I know you bought it." But no, I really meant that. I thought Santa bought it from there. And when I grew up, like around like my late teens, I remembered this, and because I went to film school, and my thesis was actually about Christmas, and I actually added kind of a scene where this um mall chain was featured in, and it was really like a inside joke or a callback to that memory I had with Christmas. So you might wonder, why would I make a thesis film about Christmas of all things? So around that time, when I after the natural childhood magic of Christmas kind of started waning for me, because it wasn't as, you're a teenager, they don't really fuss over you to keep the magic alive. You have to start creating it yourself. Around that time I started becoming a bit more into it, more consciously. I wanted to find my own meaning of it because I was starting to, exit the concepts that were fed to me as a child that were just my default mode, I guess. So I started finding myself, and with that, my own meaning of Christmas. I even had like a Tumblr that was all about Christmas. I had a bit of an obsession, and then I started looking into the pagan origins of Christmas and Yule, and it just sounded so attractive to celebrate Christmas as a time where, it's winter. Where I live, it's not winter, it's the tropics. So actually, when the weather cools down, it's a welcome thing. Um, and yeah, I just like the idea of like the days um, getting longer again, like starting at Yule, which is today, right?
It's tomorrow, actually.
It's tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, it kind of changed meaning, but I kept trying to celebrate it very consciously, but not very actively, I would say. And around that time is where I met you.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, we met when we were 20, and that's probably the time in my life where I hated Christmas the most. Where I had the most difficult time getting in the Christmas spirit, which for me was always pretty effortless up until that point. If maybe increasingly passive, I guess. When I got into my late teens, I was less emotionally involved, I guess, and less active in preparing things for Christmas in the household. Things like putting up decorations, which now I see were very important in creating a mood for Christmas. Things like preparing Christmas confectionery candies that my mom likes to make, which is very tedious, but it's big tradition in my family to do it together. I was finding it harder and harder to get inspired, motivated, excited about those things.
To give you some credit, you don't live in the tropics,
Yeah.
so
It is the gloomiest time of the year. That is true.
The additional cold is not really
No, it is not exactly welcome for me. I can't say that I looked forward to that. But yeah, it became really, and the gifts at that age also, you care a little less about it. Yeah, money is always welcome, but it's also not something you're excited to open. So I don't know, basically all of the things that excited me about Christmas as a child were becoming a little more dull at that age. And of course, we experienced a death in my nuclear family just around that time, which also made Christmas a very harsh reminder that we were not all there. So all this together made it really hard for me to stay excited about Christmas. And so today, I still drag my feet a bit to our several Christmas parties with nuclear family, extended family on both sides, friends sometimes. Because, well, one, I always found large gatherings to be tiring and taxing. Two, there's like a pressure to perform, right? It's Christmas, you're supposed to be happy, you're supposed to be excited.
Yeah.
About all the different aspects being together, giving and receiving gifts, etc. Three, the gifts themselves, I find it harder and harder to give gifts to people. I had a bit of a holy trinity of Christmas gifts, which were books, DVDs. CDs, DVDs. So I'm a bit of an avid consumer of media, I guess. Yep. So I felt what I could give was books. I read less and less, but when I read a lot books, or I could find easily titles that I loved and that I think people around me could love as well. But music and TV shows and movies, that was a huge huge, huge part of what I was giving for. I think for many years it was 90% of the gifts I was giving. But with the move to streaming and the leaving behind physical supports, that's getting harder for me to find the things to give.
And then the thing that was always consistently exciting for me, which is food.
Yeah, food is a bit of a thorny thing for me at Christmas. Coming from France, of course, there's a big food tradition around Christmas. It's maybe not as traditional in terms of like maybe fewer conventions than in the US, for instance, where they very typically associate a particular meal with a particular holiday. We have less of that, but it is kind of universal that Christmas food should be fancy, delicate, something you don't eat normally, which for me means stressful, unappealing, and just hard to go through.
So we know most of you know Emmy personally, so you know how picky he is. But in case you wandered into here and have no idea, he's like super picky, doesn't eat cheese, and foie gras is like the most grossest thing you could make him
absolutely not.
try.
Absolutely not. And again, coming from Europe, a temperate climate, the winter crops are also not something I enjoy very much. Things like mushrooms, things like chestnuts that are typically associated with winter meals are really things I don't appreciate. Oftentimes there's a lot of meat also, which I'm also not a huge fan of. So just the flavor profile itself, it's not just that it's too intricate, it's just the flavor profile already is a bit of a challenge.
And so all of that to say that when we were children, we were very passive, but passively enjoying Christmas. And around the time that we met, we could not be more different about how we felt about Christmas. I was actively trying to get more into it because I didn't want to let it go. But Emmy kind of switched off until we met.
Yeah, so when we met in 2010, we were long distance. We met online, and we remained long distance for a very long time. We only met for the first time face to face in person after almost 2 years of online relationship in 2012. And it remained like that, where we only saw each other once a year for the summer, the French summer, until 2015.
Yes. But before then was in 2014, your family actually came, and for the first time, you were able to experience the Filipino Christmas.
That's true, yeah.
But really, we prepared really well for that Christmas. It's not always like that elaborate, but that was really fun.
That's true.
The tropical Christmas.
Yeah. It was the first time for me and for my family, so very big.
Yeah. When we met, it just happened to fall into the same date as Yule when we decided to be together. It was kind of cute because we were just talking online. Strictly online. We have never met. I guess we had a different idea of what we were at the time. I just thought we were flirty friends, and I guess you thought we were...
Yeah, I think I realized a bit earlier that we were more than flirting. It didn't take me very long to fall in love. And so after just a few weeks, I understood that we were in a relationship.
Yeah, so from November 1, we were talking, and it was very natural. It really just fell into like a more meaningful connection. But for me, I guess I was brought up to think that you need to agree to it. So we just agreed to it. One day we talked about it, and we decided, okay, let's just decide now then. And yeah, it was on December 22.
Yeah, we officialized our relationship after 7 weeks and a bit.
Yeah, so that's the first year of our relationship, and yeah, since then, December 22, it's so close to Christmas. Um, that's our like Christmas anniversary, like our Christmassiest feeling anniversary. We have many anniversaries,
We do.
obviously, because
More
we
on
were
that
LDR. Yeah,
another
more on
time.
that in next episodes. But yeah, now that we're together, together, as in, let's just do a very quick recap. So we spent like 2 years LDR,
Strictly LDR.
strictly LDR, and then you visited every summer, and then you moved in 2015, and then we got married in 2020,
Yeah.
2019. We
Yeah,
also
yeah,
have
that also.
many weddings, so that's another thing. But then now, we just reached a point in our lives when we kind of want to be more conscious about how we celebrate the year. As you may probably know this, you're probably around our age, or even if not, when you get older, time kind of goes faster, and then the seasons kind of blur in and out. And so, we wanted to be more conscious about how we celebrate Christmas. We're not children, and we can't just let it happen to us. And so, that brings us to today and tomorrow.
Yeah, we wanted to recreate traditions that are meaningful to us, that resemble us, and the way that we see this time of the year. It's it's not it's really religious or spiritual in nature. It's more about connecting to each other, to people around us, to the world, including nature itself, and the cycle of nature along the year. And so we wanted to find little things that we can bring back to recreate some excitement in the way that we were excited as children about Christmas and the approach of Christmas in the lead up to December. Well, I think in both our cultures, Christmas Eve is really the big celebration. So December 24th.
I guess we also realized that we always thought of, since the start, we always thought that we had nuclear families and then extended families, and that's it. But we never thought, hey, we are a nuclear family. There's only two of us, and we've always felt like we were the children, But we're married, and we are a family of two. So we decided that why not have our own before the nuclear family Christmas. And since the fact that big crowds kind of dampen our enjoyment of things, it's like the perfect way to celebrate it our own way, to only have food that we both like, to only have activities that we both like, and to celebrate it the way we are, the way that resembles us.
Yeah, so we want to make it special, but us at the same time. So things that we don't normally do. So when we went shopping for food yesterday, we bought things that we don't normally eat.
Yeah.
Like fresh bread, smoked ham, things like that.
So it's fancy for us.
Yes, it's fancy for us.
It's not fancy,
but it's
but
also
it's fancy for
comfort
us.
food at the same time. Which is really the balance we wanted to strike with this, because we want to create something that's special, meaningful, unique, that happens once a year, while at the same time making it feel really homey, cozy, because that's also the feelings we associate with Christmas, that we like, that we want to recreate. For instance, things as simple as lighting candles, because I remember as a child, like one of the big parts of decorating the house for Christmas was to set up. We had this little windmill that was powered by candles, the heat from the candles. This wooden windmill with little characters from the nativity. So we want to bring back a bit of the light, a bit of the warmth of Christmas into something that's really just for the two of us, for our little nuclear family of two.
So we also want to watch movies. Now, we have spent so much time this year watching series and movies, but in the recent days, actually just this month, really after I guess the last Day of the Dead, we cut back, so it still feels special to actually spend time on watching movies again in the way that we actually decide, and we're not just falling into like a bad habit of like just watching things. Making homemade popcorn and cocoa, that's very cozy and simple and very us. Now, we don't know yet where we will be uploading this. But, like, we will try to find a way so that you could reach out to us. So, if you can, we'll try to give you a way to reach out to us. And we would really like to know, like, how do you celebrate Christmas?
Yeah, what are traditions that you've borrowed or created that you chose to implement in your Christmas celebrations, versus what traditions do you carry over from maybe generations in your family?
Everyone's welcome here, like whether you're Christian or like.
Yeah, this is about the holidays. It's not
Yes.
about Christmas necessarily. Feel free
Mm.
to chime in with whatever you're coming from in terms of spirituality.
Because that's one thing that I noticed when I tried to find my own path with it, is that it's really because the year is ending, and nature is also in the state where it's like asleep, and it's the sun is about to appear in the sky for longer and longer. So there's so many different traditions outside of what we were raised personally. So again, we were raised Christian, and that's why a lot of our references are Christian. But we're very much open to hearing whatever you are able to
actually
share.
excited. Like, we're very curious to
Yeah.
see how people celebrate this time of the year and how they envision and keep the excitement going into adulthood. That's really something
Yeah.
we're very curious about.
What are the traditions you join? What are the traditions you continue? What are the traditions maybe you made up, like what we're trying to do now?
That's right. So thank you for listening to us. This podcast will also be uploaded on YouTube at Bea Wildement, and we'd love to hear from you in the comments. So if you have questions that you'd like to ask us about this topic or any other topics, if you have stories that you'd like to share with us, we'd love to read them. So please don't hesitate. If you'd like to support this podcast, there's also a Patreon, also at Bea Wildement, where you can also get updates on the progress of this podcast project of ours. So thank you so much for listening, and see you again soon.